Hey everyone, I'm Elizabeth Copeland, financial journalist and trader here at Verified Investing. Thanks for another episode of Verified Market Insiders. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Gareth Solway. He's the chief market strategist here at Verified Investing. I mean, this is the guy you want to go to, right? For everything. Thanks for joining us today, Gareth.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here. Love to talk markets, love to talk whatever you want to talk about.
All right, well, let's dive in. Let's talk about those markets because for 26 or over 26 years now, you've become, one of the leading roles of traders. Lots of people follow you, love your trades, love your setups, your methodology, and you've known for calling some of the major market reversals. Can you walk us through some of the thought process you have when you're identifying the turning points or the key indicators that really make you sit up and you're like, oh, here we go. This is where it's coming.
Yeah, so a lot of these have been a combination of the technicals on the charts and then also human emotion. So reading, and this is one of the great things about social media. So social media, I'm not a big fan of. I think it's done a lot of harm into society, but at the same time, it gives you insights into a lot of people's psyche. Like, are they overly greedy? Are they thinking, once you start hearing things like, oh, Bitcoin's going to 1 million by the end of the year, and if enough people are saying that, it starts to make you recognize that that's likely a top scenario. That's where you get that crazy bullish mentality where it generally can't last, and it's telling you there's a reversal coming. Markets have an uncanny way about kind of getting the most amount of people on one side of the trade and then pulling the rug out from under them. And that goes both ways, right? So you have markets that in March of 2009, the financial crisis, I still remember vividly because I even felt it back then as a trader. The markets every day were just down massively. A Dow was down 1,000 points every day, 1,000 points, right? And it just wore you down to the point where you're just like, oh my goodness, this never is going to end. I just want to give up and walk away. And people actually were at the point they didn't even want to turn on the financial news. They didn't even want to know about it. Just like if I don't hear it or I don't see it, it's not real, right?
Right.
But those were the signals that the bottom was coming. And we look back now and it's like, wow, look at how much the markets have rallied. So again, you got to focus on the charts because the charts are going to give you price pattern and time formations, which are probability based. And then you also want to have this little bit of an artistic nature to you where you're paying attention to what everyone else is saying. When I first started trading in 99, 2000, I remember a trader telling me, and he said, when the bagel man is telling you to buy a stock, the top is in. And the idea being is that when the good news filters down to people that don't have any insights into markets, and it's not a knock against these people, right? It's just this is just the way markets work. Once they're telling you to buy, they're giving you the stock tip, the markets are usually done. And we're honestly getting towards that point now in the markets where you see these stocks going crazy, and the hype is so real that everyone is trying to get involved, probably close to a top.
And that's where you're looking for whether top or bottom to counter trade. So you're looking to hear those things, and that gives you the signal, okay, it's time, it's coming the other way. Let me get in then.
Right. So in that situation, I'm looking to either short or move myself into cash or a combination, looking for other assets. I still remember vividly gold in 2022. David Lynn, I was doing an interview with him and I said, listen, I'm a big fan of gold here. And this was 2022 into 2023. Gold was trading at like, $1,600-$1,800 an ounce at that point. And I was like the laughing stock of the internet, right? Like, oh, gold's so old school, like only old fogies buy gold and like all this stuff. And I'm like, oh man, I really like gold now because it was the sentiment. The more attacks that you get as a trader when you're putting yourself out there, the more likely you're going to be right. It actually, in certain scenarios, I've actually loaded up even heavier because I've seen that reaction, and it's usually made me more money.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. And speaking of that, in 2001 and 2007, some of your formative years of market psychology, understanding, and risk, so you've said. So how does that historical perspective influence the way you approach modern market analysis during, especially these times, not top or bottom, but extreme volatility?
Right. So extreme volatility is one of those scenarios where you have to tone back share size or the size that you're investing. So if it's crypto, you tone back to smaller position size. A lot of times people say, oh, well, I can make a lot of money. Yes, that's true, but a smart investor is not thinking about how much they're going to make. They're thinking about how much they're not going to lose.
Right.
Because if you go all in and you're wrong, oops, there you get wiped out real fast. And by the way, it's happened to me so many times I can't even count early in my career, right? So I think I want everyone to fully understand that is that I'm no different than anyone else. I went through the peaks and valleys, mostly valleys in my early trading career where, I had to work 3 side jobs just to replenish my trading account and just keep trying to build it back up. And then I'd lose it and then I'd have to build it back up, right? And it's kind of almost like a rite of passage for anyone that wants to be a trader. Is like there's never been a trader that just walked in and was like, oh, I'm the greatest trader ever, right? I always make money. And so people have to understand is there's a process. I could tell my kids that the stove is hot. They might believe me and maybe they'll avoid it. Inevitably, they're probably going to touch the stove.
Right.
They need to find out for themselves. Same thing with trading. We all have to take our lumps before we learn our lessons. And so I think that's really the key. The key point is you got to go through these things. You got to go through the process. Back when I started trading, there wasn't YouTube. There wasn't a lot of these like assets. You didn't have courses online. I mean, heck, online was just emerging at that point. And so I didn't have the resources. I had to really do it like grassroots. And so I probably took a lot more hammerings than people today, if they just focus in on good education,
Right.
would take. So their learning curve can be a lot more like this. Mine was more like, huh?
Right.
It was like going over a bunch of hills and valleys, right? But again, it's where you end up and your commitment to get there.
Sure.
People again look at things and they're like, oh, that's hard, or I took a big loss. It's all about commitment. Like anyone can be a trader. I was just saying this today to the live day trading room, is that like in high school, I took my SATs, I don't know what they take now. I don't know if it's a different test, but
Right.
it was like 1,000 on the SATs, which was like basically average.
Right.
So there's nothing special about that. I was basically an average kid and I just found something I was passionate about. And once I did, I just dove right in and I refused to accept no as an answer or a like loss as an answer, right? It was just like, this is my goal. I'm going to go do whatever I need to do to achieve it. If I got to work, all day, all night, I'll do it. Like it's just, there was no alternative. It was like, if this doesn't work out for me, all right, you'll see me at McDonald's and like whatever, like that's fine.
Right.
But in other words, there wasn't an outlet. It was going to be my mission to become a trader, and there was nothing that was going to stop me.
Yeah, and I want to go back to something you said just a minute ago. It was really interesting. You said when you started your career, there was no YouTube. So, of course, there was a lot of self-learning, a lot of lessons learned. Well, my first question is, and I think I know the answer, what did you learn more from, your winning trades or your losing trades?
Always your losing trades,
Right.
right? Yeah, I mean, it's your winning ones. Half the time, it could be dumb luck,
Mm-hmm.
right? In other words, like it just worked out, and your thesis might not have been accurate or whatever, but it was just. And also back then, when I first started trading, I didn't even know how to read a chart,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I was really just going with the crowd. Like I was going on, and hearing what the other traders in the office. So initially I worked at MetLife after college because I didn't know how to be a trader, right?
Right.
I was like, all right, I know that I love trading because I played around with fake money and I started to play with like a very small account, but I didn't know like, well, how do you do that as a career,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so after college, I went to MetLife. I worked as a financial planner, insurance guy. Hated it. Like they were like, Gareth, you're low man on the totem pole. Get on the phones and call people at dinner and just try to sell them insurance.
Wow.
Well, we all know the responses that most of those phone calls got.
Sure.
Basically F off, right? And so hated it. I'm not a confrontational person in that way. I was always a shy kid growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like everything, I would like avoid making those calls. I'd like hide in my cubicle, right? And like hope that the boss didn't come around and see me, right? I'd pretend I was on the phone, like all this stupid stuff. But as soon as I was in a year into that job, I like quit. And I had saved from that job $10K. And then I went to that prop firm. And then I was exposed to other traders, right? And so I started to hear about, oh, well, this stock is up 40% on the day. I'm going to go short. I didn't really know why, but I was like, okay, let me do it. Sometimes I got burned, by the way, because they were doing a lot of bad habits.
Right.
But really, it opened the door to now I had multiple screens in front of me. I was looking at charts. I was starting to understand price action. And that was really that start of the charts. But you're just going back to your original question. Your losses are always what you learn from. And that goes for everything in life, right? I mean, whether you're into trading or you just want to do a different career, we learn from the losses, and it's about how do we get up from that and continue. Do we stand up and just drive forward? Because some people don't. Some people just like say, oh, it was too hard, I'll walk away. Those people will never be great in their careers. You got to keep pushing.
And when I started, just a couple of years ago, just kind of trading, dabbling before I joined here. And I have to tell you, I had almost the opposite experience. I had an overload of information. It felt so overwhelming because I did have YouTube. I did have all these people out there, whether pro traders or just social media traders, as I call them, just trying to give you so much information on how to trade. What would you say to those people who are starting to trade and just feel like information overload?
And you're right. In this day and age, that's what it is, right?
Mhm.
We're exposed to so many different avenues. There's financial stuff on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, I mean, everywhere we turn. Um, and it is a hard situation. And I would always just say start out by learning the basics. And then you can expand out from there. But don't try to take too much in because it's impossible. In fact,
Right.
I see some of these influencers and watch, I'll tune into their video. I'm just curious and they have so many different indicators on the chart that I can't even even I'm like turned off. I'm like, wait, what the heck are we even looking at here?
Mhm.
I love the fact that in trading, I keep it so simple. Like I don't have moving averages on my charts. I do occasionally throw them on just to see where they are,
Right.
but it's basically trend lines, which then make up parallels, which make up, double tops, double bottoms, all that stuff.
Right.
It's so simple, yet it works.
Mhm.
And I love the idea that, one of the things I always say is a chart is essentially a foreign text. Like let's just say do you know how to read German or Chinese or whatever, right? No,
Right.
so if I were to give you a book in Chinese, you're gonna be like, I have no clue. And
Right.
that's most people looking at a chart.
Oh, for sure.
But if you just learn how to read that chart, all of a sudden it's starting to tell you things like what's the most probable next move coming.
Mhm.
And if you see enough of that and you're like, okay, the probability is let's say 70, 75%, 80%, you could say, okay, well, now it makes sense. The risk reward factors, the odds of success, these are the things that now make it sense for me to get in a trade versus, oh, I just saw that influencer talking about how it's going to 1 million, so let me just buy in.
Right.
And then you're like, oh, crap, I just lost a ton of money because he was pumping it at the highs, probably looking to unload. So the charts are just awesome like that.
Mhm. And you have a series, the Winning Trade series, through Verified
Mhm.
Investing, and when you go through that series, what do you find? And lots of people have gone through it, and you've seen them come out. They're in the live day trading room now. What do you find is the most aha moment from these traders who have now, like me, gone from overwhelmed to now, okay, let's just break it down to the simples. Let's get to the point. Keep it simple.
Mm.
We're coming out on the other side. What's the aha moment where it all kind of comes together? Do you find?
I think what it is when they put factors together, right? So in the Winning Trader series, there's a bunch of simple factors, time counts, price pattern, and time, essentially those three factors. And when you find a trade setup that has like three of those, and three essentially, the more you have, the higher probability of success, right?
Right.
And so the idea is that as you get more and you start saying, okay, well now I actually have a thesis that I could defend in front. I always say to people like, come to me and imagine I'm with the top traders in the world and you have to present this trade to me.
Right.
Would I say, all right, your thesis is valid? If not, then you're just, you probably shouldn't make the trade. But if you do that and it fits, and then watching people say, wow, I put the pieces of the puzzle together and it worked out.
Mhm.
That's the light bulb that goes on over their heads. And it's so liberating because we go from this world of where, investing is very mysterious, like, oh, I hope the markets don't crash. I hope they just keep going up forever. I just hope, hope, hope.
Right.
Into a world of, wait, this trade that I'm accepting the risk of taking has a 75% chance or 70% chance of success. It's a night and day scenario. Now you feel like you have control, and you do to some extent.
Right. And speaking of the Winning Trade series, we also have a pro edition now. What makes this pro course different?
It's much simpler. So we've really kind of tried to simplify with better increase the graphics, and really it's the same knowledge, but just increased in its expertise and its simplicity, I would say. And I think that's really the great thing about it is that it should be just an upgrade to the original with all the hard hitting facts that it already had, but now it's just even easier to digest. It's still, significantly long. I think we've been able to kind of simplify it a little bit,
Right.
but the length is just because there's so much information that I want to give out that will make you into a trader. And if you think about it, right, if you go to become a doctor, I mean, how many hours are you spending, right? And so
Years.
I think the Winning
Yeah.
Trader series is like 15, 16 hours, whatever it is. But people are spending years, and the amount of money you're spending to become a doctor, the debt you're taking on,
Mhm.
versus here you have a career where you can make thousands a day with a couple clicks of a mouse on information that I'm revealing in here in about 20 hours or less.
And sitting from your home, not even, at some point, the dream is to not even have the 9 to 5.
That's the beauty of it, right?
Right.
Wear whatever you want to wear, sleep. I mean, technically, and this is what's so funny is that when you become a trader, generally people are so excited that you're like, oh, I have this freedom, but I'd still rather be in front of my computer because
Right.
like, it's just, how do you say no when you're thinking about like, oh, wow, I could, in the first 5 minutes of the day, make $1,000. It's like, or I could just stay in bed. well, that doesn't like really. You're not going to get up for $1,000. Come on.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I get it for $1,000.
Yeah,
That's not a
heck
bad
yeah.
deal. That's not a bad deal. And you also start out the day pre-market with a 9 a.m. show called My Trading Game Plan.
Mhm.
I mean, tens of thousands of people watch this. It's very popular. What is your philosophy about how you structure this daily show? I mean, what are you looking for to highlight each day? And how do you come up with some of these trades or some of these ideas of what's moving the market that day?
So the first thing I do every game plan is I always say to myself, I've got to make this show worthwhile and actionable enough to justify why someone's going to watch for 20 minutes, right? Because it's their time and it's their morning. They could be choosing to do many other things. And so I always have to bring like my A game. I'm always, every once in a while, there'll be a show where I'm like, that wasn't my best show. And I'm like, damn it. Like, that's not cool.
Yeah.
Like it always has to be on point. So that's number one. But number two is I always want to find what's actionable for the day because tomorrow I'll do the game plan again and then there'll be new trading opportunities. And so I'm always trying to give trading opportunities that are actionable with education where if someone's just tuning in for the first time, it's simple enough for them to understand. But if someone's tuning in every day, they're starting to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And so the idea is the game plan is almost like the precursor and the walkthrough of the Winning Trader series where you're watching me. So let's say you've never taken the Winning Trader series.
Right.
The game plan is simple enough to understand, but if you have, now you're watching me do everything that I've taught and you're like, now I understand why he's doing this.
Right.
And so I love that. And I love the idea too of in the game plan being able to take these complex thoughts and extrapolate a couple steps out to make people understand the likely outcome of the markets, why I believe the markets are bearish or bullish, or individual stocks, cryptos, commodities, etc.
Right. And I mean, you talk a lot about discipline in trading. And I would assume that kind of correlates to your life. Like, what is a morning Gareth Soloway's life like? Are you waking up at like 7, checking? I mean, what are we looking at as you wake up in the morning?
Yeah, so sometimes I'm up as early as 4:30 or 5.
Mhm.
Usually what I'm doing is monitoring markets, right? And so and people say, "Oh, that doesn't sound so cool," but I kind of love it.
Yeah.
Like it's like there might be an opportunity that early, right? So and I also start to get my bearings. Like we talk about prep work, right? So prep work isn't me going out into the garden and like spending hours lifting bales of hay or anything like that. It's literally just starting to be tuned in to the point where I'll go on vacation and I'm still trading on vacation, right? In fact, since I started the original company of Verified Investing back in '07, I've always worked on vacation. And part of that is that there's a commitment to the members
Sure.
that I feel responsible for, like always walking them through the day's action. But also if you go away for like a week and you come back, you almost feel like out of touch. And out of touch in trading means you're more likely to lose because you just don't understand the inner flows of the market, like what's going to happen here, what are the market's driving forces. And so it's kind of a twofold factor there. But for me, it's just always being tuned in. I get up, I have CNBC on. Not that I'm a big fan of CNBC because they basically talk the fundamental side and I'm a technical trader, but it lets me know what kind of the key driving forces are. Like what are other investors going to be doing today? What's the big stocks that are moving, right? And so I pay attention to that. Then I go right to my charts. I start analyzing the charts. What's the big movers of the day? And I just, basically all day long trading and just analyzing.
And you've been doing this, like I said earlier, over 26 years. You said, I mean, there's been times where were learning, wiped out accounts.
Yeah.
Right now, if you had to go back 26 years, what advice would you give to young trading Gareth in that life?
I mean, that's a good one. I mean, number one, like I said, I made lots of mistakes early. I also look back on that and say it was a learning curve. It made me who I am today. But I certainly would, like anyone who's starting, including myself, I'm so happy looking back that I didn't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because if I had a lot of money, I would have just been trading with more money. I had very little and I had to, like we talked about, I had to work 3 side jobs just because I was taking losses in that account and it was going to zero. So I had to keep replenishing it every month. And I'm really happy that I didn't have just millions to draw on because I would have just kept on drawing on. Like if I had a trust fund or something like that, I would be like, oh, let's take another million out and like just trade. And I would have lost it. But when money really matters, you pay more attention. And so I think if I had more money to trade with, it would have even taken me longer to become a profitable trader.
Okay. Well, that totally makes sense for sure. And I mean, you not only built your successful career on, learning from your losses and trading, but you were also an educator. What do you find more challenging? Trading profitable trading for a win or teaching others to take profit?
Mm.
So education or trading, what do you find to be more difficult or rewarding?
Well, rewarding is definitely the education.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so cool. It's, when I first got into trading and when I first started the company back in '07, and I was trading already for years before that, but finally, I still remember telling my mom that I was going to start trading, and she was honestly disappointed. Like
Yeah.
she was disappointed that I was going to be starting a business and making this a career. I think before that she thought it was like a hobby and like because she was an educator. Both my parents were teachers, and my mom always had this hope that I would be a teacher.
Yeah.
And like I still remember she was like, "Oh, you're going to become one of those greedy Wall Street guys and like all about the money." And then what I'm proud about is that I still, number one, I stuck with it and I just pushed forward.
Mhm.
But now I'm able to teach and do like it's weird how it's come full circle where I'm still able to be a trader, but
Right.
I'm also able to teach. But to answer your question, I would say trading is harder than educating. I can teach anyone to trade as long as they're committed.
Mhm.
But the one thing I can't teach people to do is be disciplined.
Yep.
So that's the emotional side, right? Everyone has to find that on their own. The teaching people what a double top is, a topping tail, all these little things. It's just it is what it is, right? It's very black and white. It is what it is. But the education is more fulfilling for sure.
How do you feel like you stay disciplined? Like what is your process of looking at a trade that may be going against your way? I mean, we are in the live day trading room every day, right?
Mhm,
We're trading risk management. We're trading real money with real members.
mhm.
When you see a trade going the opposite way, how do you stay disciplined in emotion?
Yeah, so I've really trained myself over years and years and years to have zero emotion. So I always go back to the chart. The chart is always going to be the one that tells me should I still be in this? Is it still going to bounce, let's say, or is it going to go south? And also the money management side, right?
Mhm.
So, the general consensus of most investors is here's a great trade setup. Whether it is or not, we don't know. But generally, people don't enter a trade unless they think it's a good trade.
Right.
And so if you think it's a good trade, the idea is, well, why don't I put in as much money as I can
Mhm.
because then I'll make the most.
Right.
I've learned that when I do that, I get smoked. So what that's taught me is to be very disciplined and say, okay, I like this setup, but I could be wrong.
Mhm.
So let me start small. And it's not about how much we make, it's about how much we don't lose
Right.
as a trader to be successful, right? If you can keep your losses minimal, then you're going to be likely a winning trader. And so those are really that's such a key factor, that mindset shift to go into a trade thinking you might lose
Mhm.
is a much different mindset than most people have, which is why most people don't do very well in trading because they're going too heavy.
Right. And at what point, because a lot of times I have, level set that's going my way, and all of a sudden it's not, and my thesis is negated. At what point, though, I'm having a hard time figuring out, okay, is my thesis negated, or is this a part of the market just trying to pull my
Flip you,
money?
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's always the tricky thing, and a lot of times that will happen, right? It'll
Mhm.
go just a little bit lower than where your stop is, and then they'll reverse it. And part of that is there's something about the markets that understand whether it's algorithmic or just the natural way of things. The markets understand you bought where you did, and there
Mhm.
were probably thousands of other people, and they know where can they push you to get you out of that trade. And so
Right.
it's a fine line where this is another scenario where sometimes it's good to go smaller because you can withstand those type of flushes
Right.
and then stick with it or even add down there, like be like, okay, well, now it's down here, dollar cost average,
Sure.
and get that bounce. Because inevitably, unless there's some news like bankruptcy or something like that, very few things go straight down, just like very few things go straight up. And so you're going to eventually get a bounce.
Mhm.
The question is, can you manage the position appropriately to be in a good position to get that bounce and be in the money or at least break even, right? I've taken trades where I'll be out of the money and I have to manage it and I'm just happy to get back to break even.
Mhm.
That's okay too. No loss is kind of a win.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's been days where it seems like you have to, at least in my trades, have to dollar cost average almost all day to fight just to break even.
Hmm.
But I mean, that's another, pro of not putting in 100% of your portfolio, right? Because now you've got money to navigate that trade and be able to be a little bit more flexible.
Yeah, and one of the biggest lessons that I try to teach in the Winning Trader series that I teach all the traders here is be a singles and doubles hitter,
Mhm.
right? So a baseball analogy is you have the home run hitter. Well, the home run hitter might hit a lot of home runs, but they also strike out a lot.
Right.
And striking out is not good for us because we tend to take big losses, right? I mean, when you strike out, you're taking a big loss that can do major damage to your count.
Right.
And so the key is just taking small, and that's partially share size or crypto size, whatever it is
Mhm.
that you're buying small amounts to allow that maneuverability, but just understanding, don't swing for the fences. Don't try to make 1 million in one trade. Just do 1 million trades for a few dollars, and the math works out.
That makes, I mean, that makes total sense, because if you're striking out and hit, one home run every 5 strikeouts, I mean, yeah, you might make a couple hundred, couple
Right.
$1,000 in one, but if you're just consistently making $100,
$100.
boom, it adds up so
It
quickly.
does. It really does. And it's that compounding factor too, right?
Right.
It's like, so you build your account, let's say from 5,000 to 10,000. If you then take a 50% loss at that point, you're back to 5,000. And what was that whole all for? But if you're just consistently building it, let's say making 200, 200, 200 to 200, lose 200 or 300, you're still hanging in there, 200, 200, 200. High on base percentage, essentially.
Right. I'd rather be dollar cost averaging every day to get back to zero than trying to fight multiple days in a row to get back to zero after a huge loss.
Yep.
I feel like that's a lot easier.
I agree. I agree.
Well, I think we have time for one last question. Now, I've been hearing a lot about this in the office.
hmm
I'm very excited. I wanted to be the first to ask you because
Oh, boy.
I'm not quite sure what everyone's talking about, but I've heard about the $1 Million Investor
Ooh.
Series. So I've heard about this, and everyone on the VI team seems to know except for me. So tell me what this is all about. Spill the beans. Let me let everybody know what the $1 Million Investor is all about.
So what I wanted to do was I wanted to start a new service,
Mhm.
and we only meet quarterly, so it's like a mastermind class.
Okay.
But it's I'm putting $1 million in account, and everyone that's part of that service is going to get access to that account to view it, right? So
Wow.
it's real $1 million in that account. Our first meeting, I will be talking about the investments that I will be putting in there. It's not meant to be as much a swing trade like I do in smart money stocks and ETFs,
Sure.
which is shorter term, like we buy for a few days or a week or two. This is more like, okay, over the next quarter, what is my game plan for growing this money? And so we'll be holding for a little bit of a longer period, which is, some people always say like, oh, I wish you had a longer term
Sure.
holding portfolio or subscription. And we'll be going over all of this, and they'll see it live in the account. So if I buy and sell, they'll see anything I do in that account. They'll see the P&L of that account grow or shrink if I do poorly. But essentially, it's that full transparency, but on a little bit of a longer time frame to allow for it to be much, much different. So I think this is kind of something that a lot of people have asked for. And so I love the idea of doing this kind of mastermind $1 million portfolio kind of challenge, which will be for a year. Anyone who signs up is going to be in for a year. And we'll meet quarterly, and they'll get alerts if I do trade. Every once in a while, I will put a new position in or take it off, and they'll get alerts on that, and they can see it in the portfolio as well.
So
See
real-time updates.
real time,
Yeah.
with exactly how many shares of a stock or ETF, dollar amount invested, like all of the data, P&L, profit or loss, if I'm in the profit or loss for that.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you, because so like, let's say I don't have $1 million. Let's say I have $100,000.
Mhm.
So I can then calculate, all right, he put this much of a portfolio into this, so I can calculate my own trade, same entry and exits, but I can calculate that risk management myself in my own portfolio.
Exactly. And I'll be focusing on higher quality names, most likely too,
Okay.
where it's more like, like we might be looking at something that pays a great dividend. Since we're holding it for a full quarter, we'll get that dividend. I'll be factoring that into my analysis, but you'll be able to basically take anything I do, and you can extrapolate into your size account, and then you get to make the decision of, do you want to follow that percentage? You can go heavier, you can go less.
Right.
I'm showing you exactly what I'm doing, full transparency.
Okay, awesome. Well, I am super excited to see that, to be a part of it. Quarterly meetings, but transparency 24/7, right? It's not just the quarterly updates.
No, that's right.
24/7.
24/7, full access to that account to be
Wow.
able to view. And then we'll meet quarterly to discuss. I'll answer questions. I don't really have a service anymore where I answer questions. My traders do for me, but this will be more of a mastermind where we can talk about things, maybe talk about the next investment we're
Wow.
going to do. People might have a great idea. I'm always open, right? I certainly don't know everything. So people in there, bring your ideas as well.
I mean, just before coming into this company, Verified Investing, I will tell you, this level of transparency you don't see anywhere else. You really don't, and that's just not from me because I work here. That's just, it's true. You don't
Yeah.
see that level of transparency anywhere. So That
It
is
is
a
true.
huge
It
deal.
is true. And just to mention that too, I love the fact that in our live day trading room,
Mhm.
you basically have a cockpit now where when we enter a position, it goes in live with our size, like
Right.
1/10, 1/5, whatever it may be. We tell you it's based off $1 million account, which we're trading. And basically, as soon as we close it in, it goes right to the track record. It's all automated. So it's just like people see whatever we do. It is what it is.
That is awesome. Oh my gosh. I mean, you can't beat that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, Gareth, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you talking with us. And we'll definitely be in touch about that $1 million investor.
Sounds
Seriously.
good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thanks again for joining me here, Gareth. And Gareth, just one last thing. Where can people find you on social media if they are looking to follow like what your thoughts are, if they're not maybe in the verified investing group?
Yeah, so YouTube is the big place. I do a few videos almost every day where just more insights from me, and that's a great place to get some information for free and just check it out. And really, just verified investing. I write articles every single day. I do our little commentaries. I mean, there's so much free stuff on the verified investing homepage that I do, including these videos. That really, if they just come to verified investing, they'll get everything they need.
Okay, and make sure you go there, like and subscribe. You'll get those notifications of Gareth or any of our other traders or any interviews that may come up. So make sure you do that. But again, thanks for joining us on Market Insiders. We can't wait to have our next episode.